down with OTC? Down with OTC. OTC. Are you down with OTC? Are you down with OTC? OTC. Are you down with OTC? Down with OTC. Down with OTC.
Who's down with OTC?
Ah, man, who is down with OTC? What's going on?
I'll tell you one person that's down with OTC, Jeff.
Who's that?
That is none other than Joni Goldbergson.
Joni. Huge shout out.
Joni,
thank you very much for that support.
That's very cool. A special thank you for doing these live shows. They truly boost morale. From my hubby, Steve, Home Church, Panama. Fantastic. Really appreciate the support. And great if it's, we're happy to do it. Right, Jeff? Provide
That's
some,
right.
Get the community together. We need to have the community together, and we need to work on this together. Jeff, what's in store for tonight's show?
So tonight's show, man, we are going to talk a little bit about, we're going to talk about some blockchain, some crypto, but I'm thinking we're going to focus a little bit about Ripple XRP, exchanges, banks. We're going to dig into whether or not Tether's a security, because that has come up as a question multiple times. What's going on with this case that's pending against Tether? And then there's some interesting things out of Christine Lagarde and just a bunch of other things that we need to get into. I'm just going to call them things because we haven't even started with them yet.
That's a lot for this show, Jeff. So we better get going, better be intentional and stick to the script, right?
Stay on script.
Stay on script and keep everything. I like it. It's a good thing to do. Let's get this puppy off to the races. What do you say?
Let's go. Let's go.
Welcome to On the Chain with Jeff and Chip.
Hey, Chili, welcome back, Jeff. We caught you drinking some coffee. So espresso, perhaps, maybe some Death Wish. A little bit too
No.
late for that,
See
maybe.
that? See that foam at the top? One
That
guess.
looks like a Guinness to me, if I had to guess. If I was a
It
betting
is.
man, Jeff, I would say it's a Guinness.
It is. That is a
Nice.
Guinness.
I'm drinking agua,
Nice.
pure water from the filtered water system. So,
Oh, that's perfect. Yeah, I want to
Carl
give
Lewis.
a shout out to everybody that's here. Carl Lewis was actually first in the stream today, way back before we even got started. So big shout out to Carl Lewis over there and everybody else that's here. We get people from all over the world to bounce in here, and we love seeing when people shout out where they're from because that's awesome. And I saw we have Thailand in here. I know we've got Ireland in here. We've got Istanbul in here. We got people from all over the place. I thought I saw Oklahoma scroll up there a little while ago. London, right here, tuning in from Twitter, from the Periscope.
Fantastic.
Got Philippines, Staten Island, Chicago, Wisconsin. Man, it's awesome. It's great. All the cold places. Oh,
Canada,
from Korea. Man,
Canada,
great.
UK, New York, Wisconsin, Chicago's in the house, Tokyo's in the house.
There we go.
Montreal, Mars. Whoa, Mark Poppins from Mars.
There we go. I haven't had anyone from Mars in a while.
Yeah. Hey, Chile. That's where my wife hails from. Chile. My wife is Chilena. So Yeli Orta, nice to see you. Yeah, I don't know what part of Chile you're from. Cleveland rocks. Cleveland. We have the smartest people here. Joni, you are so right, man. Joni is hitting it on all cylinders tonight. We do have the smartest people here because that's one of the things that makes this show phenomenal. And Jeff, you just mentioned 3 hours of topics. We're going to attempt to put them all in this show somehow.
In 1 hour.
I don't know how it's going to happen, but I have confidence.
In 1 hour or less.
All right. I'm accepting that. What's the very first thing you want to jump into?
All right. So very first thing we're going to jump into for tonight is this little line of Twitter feeds from Blockchain Association. So I thought this was really important because Blockchain Association actually, posted some details on a bank that is going crypto, or a crypto that is going banking, however you want to phrase it. But here you go, the Blockchain Association. Today's a major day for the future of the crypto economy. Blockchain Association member company Anchorage has been granted a national bank charter by the US OCC. Now, Chip, this is such a major thing. I didn't share my screen, so you guys didn't see what I was showing. So too bad for you, but we got to see it. I got to see it, at least.
Jeff, I thought you were just super smart. I was like, I didn't even think. There it is.
There it is, right there. I was just right off the top of my head. But anyhow, Chip, one of the things that we've talked about a lot is whether or not the banks are going to get into cryptocurrency exchanges, or are the cryptocurrency exchanges going to get into banking? Which one's going to be first? And we've asked everybody that we've had on the show. We asked Alex Mashinsky, we asked Curtis Wang, we asked the CEO from Binance US and others, what did they think? And our philosophy is that the cryptocurrency exchanges were going to get into banking well before the banks got into cryptocurrency exchanges. What do you think about that?
Well, I have to say that I'm almost thinking that there's a distinct advantage that an exchange brings to the table. I mean, you're the one that kind of brought this up a while ago. You were really the first person in the space that said, hey, I'm starting to see that banks becoming exchanges, exchanges becoming banks. But, now with some of the new regulations coming out, with the whole idea of fintechs getting banking, charters, banking licenses, and it not having to go to each state to do the license, being able to get a national one, I don't even know where it makes any sense for an exchange to not, if you're in the United States, to not do it, Jeff. I mean, I can't come up with a reason why you wouldn't want that, because a lot of benefits come along with that. And it makes sense too, the fact that banks can custody crypto as well. So it just kind of ties in and makes it more, not only that, but, it's interesting to see. We had also talked about in the US about FDIC, right? That each bank account in the United States is backed up to $250,000 by the U.S. government. We said, well, what about crypto? And will other countries, if they have any type of an insurance on banks, will they also do that?
Yep, exactly. So, and here's Mr. 396. It's mentioning with Kraken, being a bank and an exchange. So, and that's was over in Wyoming, and we're starting. It's great. Yeah. So Kraken did get the banking license. So we're starting to see a trend, and I think that's really the point of all of this is beginning to see the movement. And so when you see another company that's, or in this case, Anchorage, getting but this is a national bank charter also, and so I think things are definitely stepping and moving in an interesting direction. And one of the things, so they go on here, it says, we have long argued that a national regulatory approach, not a piecemeal or state by state regime, is needed to properly support the long-term growth of crypto in the US. This action is the type of clear step that is needed. So again, this is from a national regulatory perspective because it is from the US OCC, and instead of it just being a Wyoming charter. So this is, this is national in scope, and this is what they're pushing for. So I think that's the differentiator in this. And then just one more point here. They go on, they said, Brian Brooks, OCC, has promised that this sort of clarity on national regulatory frameworks was forthcoming. We commend him and the agency for this bold future focused step. Now, Chip, here he is. We're seeing some movement here within the OCC, and guess who's stepping down this week?
Brian Brooks.
Brian Brooks.
It's
That's
amazing.
It. Yep.
And it doesn't make any sense to me, but unless for the last 2 months he's been inundated with opportunities, offers to go to other places, to head other things, to potentially run big, or be a spokesperson or certain lead counsel for let's just say it, someone like an investment bank. There's a lot of things. I don't know. It's just pure speculation on my part, but he doesn't have to leave. And if he's doing a great job, or the other flip side of it was he was asked to leave, because I don't think if you're doing a great job and you're out there making moves and doing the right thing, you wouldn't necessarily step down. Now, I know there's been a lot of conversation about Gary Gensler, people saying, well, he did say that XRP was a security. Yeah, but he's also defended it as well. He's also made a lot of arguments, the fact that it's also a cryptocurrency, right? So, I understand I've seen a lot of kind of pulling and tug and pull in the community, Jeff, but I mean, I've seen both sides of it. So he's either going to be, there you go, right there. So he's either going to do that, and, I don't think it's going to make much of a difference. It's a little bit of too late to, the person they had in there was way pro crypto, and it doesn't matter. The complaint's already been filed. What is he going to do? Get in there and say, well, it turns out I don't think it really matters. The choice for it, I think I don't know, Jeff, what your opinion is on this. Yeah, the Grayscale is another story I have here too. I mean, I had pulled up.
Yeah, and we've talked about that, but yeah, I think those are important things to look at. And here, if Grayscale is actually liquidating their XRP trust, different than when they were buying more XRP a week ago. But we're definitely seeing a movement. The fact that I don't think he was asked to leave, I think, overall, a week left, he's probably got, quite a few opportunities, but he's also only the acting, what's his terminology, director? Is that his title, acting director of the OCC? So, so he didn't go through the same scrutiny as if he was full time. So it was a temporary gig to begin with. And like to your point, a lot of those that leave those positions end up in fairly lucrative positions as it goes. Where he goes next, who knows where he goes next, but we'll I guess time will tell. But one thing that we can take from that, go ahead if you want to.
I'll just say, I just want to jump in real quick. I think I think there's something that really we need to dive into with regard to the XRP trust with Grayscale. People are going, oh, you see, they're bailing, they're flipping out, they're getting rid of it. Well, there's a very specific reason, and it makes a lot of sense. I mean, basically, they say that it's going to become very difficult for any U.S. investors, including the trust, to convert XRP to US dollars. And because of that, it's gonna impede the trust's operations, right? You're an investor, you put money into a trust, you want to then take the money out of the trust. The only way you can do that. And so if the XRP trust is unable to convert, a lot of people look at this like, well, it has a lot to do with the whole idea of XRP being called a security. Well, yeah, that could potentially happen. They could say, well, it was a security, whatever. Pending the outcome of that, the bottom line is that if it's going to be difficult to then turn XRP into USD, the trust can't make it. And so that's why they're bailing on it. They're not bailing on it because they don't think it's a great idea, because they don't believe in XRP. It's really none of that. It's just that the trust has to operate in a certain capacity, and if it can't convert, Jeff, it can't really operate, right? I mean, the way it should.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a great point. Definitely well stated. So from that, interesting, but yet then there's still a lot of positives that come from some of those members of Ripple, and one of them being Brad Garlinghouse. So and really his focus here was in response to Anchorage. Anchorage saying crypto deserves a bank, and we are immensely proud of being approved as one to set the standard. That's coming from Anchorage. Brad was retweeting them, and he said, if you ever had doubts that crypto is going to play an integral role in the future of our global financial systems, well, hope this clears some things up. Congrats to Anchorage. And I forgot to share that again. All right. So never mind. I'm reading it. You guys get the gist. But I think overall, it's great when to see the momentum. And it's very in a time where you see the SEC taking certain action. There could potentially be some doubt with certain people stepping down. Certain new people coming in place. Are they going to refer to XRP as a security? Is it not? What's the outcome going to be? What's the impact going to be on the space in general in the US? Are they going to be friendly? Is this administration going to be acceptable of stable coins? Are they going to be antagonistic to stable coins and other crypto? And I think there's some uncertainties, without, true clarity, it's hard to get, proper direction.
Yeah, and I think it really depends. I also think there's going to be there's that old adage where if it's the genie's already out of the bottle, it's going to be tough to put in. Now, we'll talk about this later in the show, but there's been kind of a, when you're the top dog, you're Bitcoin, you're going up, and all of a sudden you lose close to 25%, or you lose 25% of market value. You shoot up to 40,000 USD, you come back to 30,000 in a pullback, and then you start heading back up. Last time I checked earlier it was 37. But now all of a sudden, here come the long knives out for Bitcoin. Uh-oh, Bitcoin is bad. Bitcoin is used for illegal activity. Bitcoin is not a real currency. Bitcoin is horrible, right? And, it could have been you substitute any of the number one, let's say currency, what we would call a cryptocurrency at this point, and the long knives are coming out for it, right? It's always one attack, the one on top. And it bounced right back. And guess what else? Are they attacking the top stocks? Tesla has fallen out before. We've had a lot of things fall out, Jeff. But why are we starting to see all this? It's like it seems to be all around us now, where they're all having a problem all of a sudden with Bitcoin. Have you noticed this? This is pervasive.
I did, yeah. And actually, there's someone else that came out and was saying some things about Bitcoin recently as well. And so we definitely have to get into that. But want to just let everybody know, if you're brand new to the channel, you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit the little bell notifier, because that way you get notified every time we post a video. And if you are subscribed and you haven't hit that notification, definitely do that. And then a quick shout out here to Mamba for Life. Was say here, do you know why XRP is crashing?
Let me see. Let me consult my official 8-ball over here. I'll flip it upside down.
Look at it, that'd be great.
I'll ask the question again. Do we know why it's crashing? Well, it's just market conditions, really. Market. I'm looking right now, and it's at. Let's see. Wow, my CoinGecko is stuck here. Usually have it right on my phone, but it's like Why is CoinGecko not working, Jeff? That's the bigger question.
That is a good question.
Yes, I don't know. CoinGecko. There we go.
What
So
is
I
it
don't
at?
know. I mean,
Where
is it
We're all
crashing?
waiting.
No, I see it at 0.29. It was just
It's at 29
0.30.
cents.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's not really moving much.
I don't see
It's
crashing. I mean,
Reese. You know what's interesting is that it was down. It pulled back to about 17 cents a few weeks ago with the announcement of the SEC. Markets in general are very emotional. Stocks, crypto, you get a lot of the emotional retail response. And so that's what we're seeing. You see the pullback. There's always going to be a pullback. You know, it's interesting though when you get good news in a stock market and you see a pullback. I never understood that. You know, but here in a speculative investment, you know, it's going to be very reactive to that emotion. And there's really nothing else that props up the digital asset space at this point, you know, because we haven't seen full utility kick in the digital asset space. So you get a lot of emotional ups and downs, but you're starting to see the institutional money come in, which is propping up Bitcoin at this point, you know,
yeah.
so
But
yeah.
Jeff, look at this. Check this out. So, I mean, when you look at the chart, you're like, oh my God. But this is like, we're talking about cents here. We're not talking about tens or thousands of dollars. And it looks bad, right? But you look here, then January 13th, it's 0.289, right? Just almost 29. It kind of rides up a little bit. And you say, oh my gosh, look at how bad that is. Yeah, and it's back to where it was right here. So,
Yep.
you know, it's oscillating a little bit. But, you know, what do I look at? Like a crash? I would say like, yeah, Grayscale liquidating. Well, liquidating their XRP trust only because the difficulty in being able to convert XRP to US dollars. That they're going to run into difficulty with that.
Yep.
And you know, it's possible we may as well. But guess what? I'm okay with that because you know, look, I've been holding for a long time. You know, that's where you have to assess your own risk and find out what works for you, what works for your family. And you know, we kind of give you some different sides and ways to look at it. But ultimately, you guys got to figure out what's best for you. I mean, I'm not bothered by it. You know, there was a reason, there was a use case that I invested in. There was a reason that I invested in XRP and other digital currencies as well. You know, truth be told, I don't own any Tether, so I'm not really.
Well, we
For
saw
the
you
main,
see percentage moves
yeah. Well, the whole thing about
up and
Tether
down.
is, I've never really felt like it was backed by what they said it was, right? It was supposed to be one-to-one
Yep.
parity with the USD. I mean, I just never quite bought it. I'm like,
No.
okay,
Yep, and we're going to get into that. There's some interesting, articles here, and really digging in to how the court looks at it. I think is going to be interesting. But I just want to touch on one thing because you were mentioning that there's quite a few people that are starting all at once, to start beating up on Bitcoin. And so I find it interesting. Oh, you know why these aren't popping up right away? I changed the setting.
I like
I
that, Jeff.
changed I changed the settings so that we can queue up articles without them immediately
No,
popping in. And I
no,
forgot I changed that.
no, I
That's
actually
why
like
they're
that a
not being
lot.
added.
I
So much
actually like
better.
that. Yeah, it's so much
Yeah,
better.
so much better, but I forgot that I did that. But so much better. But here you have ECB's, which is, what does that stand for? The
European Central
European
Bank.
Central Bank, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
so here you have, she's saying that Christine Lagarde says speculative Bitcoin needs global regulation. So you're not saying Bitcoin, crypto, everything, there's some speculation. She calls it speculative Bitcoin, or at least, that's how they put the title anyways. But here she says, Lagarde said Bitcoin was a highly speculative asset. And so it is interesting, because she's identifying that. But here, this is, you brought up, the point. So, I was going through this, and this is like a continuation of this narrative of the digital asset space or Bitcoin being used for nefarious purposes, that it's some black market currency. And so here again, and this, just comes out and makes these statements. But Lagarde said the highly speculative asset has led to some reprehensible activity, including money laundering, and any loopholes need to be closed, according to a report from Reuters.
Yeah, I was gonna play that
So,
soundbite. I got that soundbite here. You want to hear it
do
real
you
quick?
have it? Oh yeah,
Yeah, I
let's
do.
listen to that.
I
Yeah,
have
let's
it.
play that. That'd be
Let's go
awesome.
here. So let's go.
It is a speculative. It's a speculative asset. by any account. I mean, when you look at the most recent developments upward and now the most recent downward trend, for those who had assumed that it might turn into a currency.
You hear what she just said there? That's big, Jeff. She said, for those of you who thought it might turn into a currency, that's weird because I already thought the SEC came out and deemed it not a security, but a cryptocurrency. Huh, interesting, right? Let's move on.
Terribly sorry, but this is an asset, and it's a highly speculative asset, which has conducted some funny business and some interesting and totally reprehensible money laundering activity.
Okay, this is the tired old adage about the money laundering activity. Well, I got news for you, Miss Lagarde, and I don't mean any disrespect by this, but you can take from the beginning of time till now, or at least even the last 50 years, you will never ever catch up with all the illegal activities going on with Bitcoin than you would with fiat currency around the world. I mean, probably in the last year, you'll never catch it. That's how bad, that's how pervasive it is.
So do you remember about 2 years ago, Deutsche Bank got caught up in a $20 billion Russian money laundering scheme?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Deutsche, oh, wait, is that, oh, Deutsche Bank.
Huh.
Oh, that's so interesting. Oh, it wasn't Bitcoin Bank. It was Deutsche Bank. Oh, and then, by the way, it's so interesting because September of this year, let me see if I can open this up here. Hang on a second. I can't get to the article. What the heck is going on here? What kind of article is this where I can't open it? It said here, I just want to, no, now I can't get to it. Never mind. Everything open except for what I needed.
Anyway, let's play the list of the rest of this so we can close this up.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think that there are criminal investigations that have taken place that I'm sure will continue to take place that demonstrate it very clearly. And there has to be regulations, and this has to be applied and agreed upon. It's a matter that needs to be agreed at a global level, because if there is an escape, that escape will be used. So I think it needs to be if anything, it shows that global cooperation, multilateral action is absolutely needed, whether it's initiated by the G7, moved into the G20, and then enlarged, but it's something that needs to be addressed. And FATF is clearly an organization that has expanded in that respect. It is a speculative. It's a speculative.
So it's safe to say that she's not down with Bitcoin, right? She doesn't seem to be, I mean, it's a lot of the same tired stuff, but it's funny how she says it's speculative. Well, I hate to say it, but so is the entire cryptocurrency market. So, you probably think I'm the last guy to step up for Bitcoin, but it's not about Bitcoin. It's about the whole entire community. There's cryptocurrencies, there's digital assets. It's a digital asset. And to sit there and start the old tired thing, the violin, we're going to play the whole violin thing about how it's so horrible and speculative. And I'm sorry, but it's currency. It is. So, but I get where her disdain for it. That's pretty clear. And we know that she's been, how many times has Brad Garlinghouse been in the presence of Christine Lagarde, especially when she was running what, Jeff? The bat signal?
Hang on.
Wait a minute. F. Oh, there we go. IMF. Remember
IMF.
that. So yeah, so she really.
Give it a minute.
Hang on a second. Let's go. That's the bat signal. We put it out for.
All right, not yet.
So yeah, I mean, when you hear that clip, like, what are your thoughts about that? When they're talking about money laundering and la la la,
It's crazy, right? Now here's the thing. So that's what she's saying. The article I think brought up that I had pulled up before had pulled up some interesting points, because one of the things, she brings up that there has to be regulation. We know there has to be some clarity. I think from her perspective, they're really, looking at it from a perspective of maybe over-regulation. But really, if we look at what's her objective now, now that she's working for the European Central Bank, what is the one thing the European Central Bank wants to do? And that is to roll out a digital euro. And their plan is to do that in a max of 5 years. So as they're looking at the digital currency space, and it's interesting because a lot of interesting negative sentiment was generated, but then you also saw a lot of passion to move towards a digital currency when Facebook came out and said, hey, by the way, we have this awesome Libra project, and it's going to be great. And we're going to have banks all over the world and institutions all over the world working with Facebook and working with Libra. And then that was it. That was, the governments all over the world did not take too kindly to that. And now that Facebook is kind of trying to reclassify as Diem, still a lot of negative connotation, but it pushed all the potentially. I mean, from our outside looking in, it looked like that was the impetus that pushed all the governments to saying, hey, we're doing it too. And those that were working on it tried to roll it out faster.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be an interesting. We're in an interesting quarter right now. Q1. A lot of times people are refocusing, doing other things. And as investors into digital assets, there's a lot of uncertainty right now, and that's okay because it happens. I mean, I almost feel like we're almost better positioned now, 3 years later, than a lot of people came in the space in 2017, 18, 19, right? It's gotten a little bit easier to purchase digital assets. There's certainly, we have banks. There a lot of the OCC stuff that came out. I feel like we're moving in the right direction, but still, we're kind of caught with some uncertainty. Go ahead and take that.
Yeah,
Jeff.
exactly. So here's Chubsley is saying, wouldn't it be harder to launder money with fiat as opposed to having a permanent record of transactions on the blockchain? It just shows how, and it's interesting too, because Christine Lagarde is the one that talks a lot about digital asset. But if they roll out a centralized digital currency that isn't on the blockchain, doesn't necessarily have a full transaction being recorded. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. I don't know. Who knows what they're hiding in the background. But that would be the objective, is that they're able to track all the purchases. But here, from a decentralized perspective, I just think it's interesting. They keep going back to that, and what Chubsley is saying, it just makes no sense, because money has been the transactional denomination for how many years? How many hundreds of years since the invent of the first coin, which probably predated the Roman Empire. Money has been used for nefarious purposes.
It has value, Jeff. Anything that's going to carry any sort of value is going to, it can be used for good, can be used for bad, right? And of course, there's always going to be that element, but I still think it's a minority for the most part. And he brings up a good point about. I thought this was good here. So, Immortal Explorer says, "Hey, who's buying XRP now?" Alex D chimed in and said, "Hey, I'm buying XLM." LOL. But that's curious. I'm curious. Put that out there. Like, who is buying XRP? Who's buying XLM? Again, Jeff, we've talked about this time and time again. If you think this is a complaint against Ripple, it's not. It's a complaint against almost every altcoin that's not Ethereum or Bitcoin. Yeah,
I think so. And it really then brings us to another point that we've talked about a little bit. But this was, and this actually, an article came out on the Daily Hodl, but we've already gotten into, what David Schwartz was saying about stablecoins, what we also read about their big, that there's a push to bring the XRP ledger to central banks, But then, this article here, let me see if I can just pull it up real quick, because I thought there were some interesting points in it.
I got to hear from you, Brevet.
Do you have it already? Yeah, go ahead. You got to pull it up. Pull it up.
Is this the one right here, Jeff?
Oh, there you go. Nice. Looks like the same one on my screen. Perfect.
That's right.
No, yeah. So here you have, a big push from Ripple, to get into really getting, the bankings, the transactions, and the core purpose of what the XRP ledger was really meant to do, and that's to work for banks. Yeah, and you look at the XRP digital asset, the primary purpose is to move large sums of money rapidly to be utilized by financial institutions. That was their core purpose. The core purpose of Ripple is to allow for remittance payments, large sums to be moved, between bank to bank, and do it fast and do it efficiently. And so here, stating that, from right from the top, whoever fills the new positions will be tasked with designing and deploying central bank digital currencies. And we're seeing a lot of conversation about the CBDCs. The one thing that we have seen, though, the majority of CBDCs have a tendency, at least the conversation or your outcome would have a tendency to lean towards centralization, like the digital yuan. However, we saw what's going on in the Ukraine. They're trying to build it on a private version of the Stellar project. And so here, what Ripple is saying is that, hey, by the way, all these banks that want to develop their own digital currency, by the way, the banks can actually issue stable coins on the XRP ledger. So you can roll out your CBDC on the XRP ledger, which is what its purpose was. And this is what they're saying right here: built for payments. XRPL can also be used to support the issuance of stable coins with a unique fungible token functionality called issued currencies. And you can get into, the whole concept behind that. But what was the, not that long ago, what is the one thing that happened at the OCC level? And you kind of mentioned in the beginning, moving towards the acceptance and custodying of stable coins and custodying of digital assets at the banking level, just the beginning. So there's so much else that's going on. I just think, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, the whole idea, I feel like when something goes bad, right, everybody like starts scrambling, like running around and stuff, and they forget, like, you always got to go back to core principles. What Jeff's saying here is like, what was it really built for? Built for payments. XRPL can also be used for, to support issuance of stable coins. Yeah, we know that. Yeah, it's unique, but the other thing about it is it's interoperable. And guess what CBDCs are going to need? They're going to need interoperability. And are they going to be responsible for it? They're not. Is someone else going to build it? They could, but you've already established this. So this is one of the reasons for the big push for the interoperability, right? So, and again, there's a lot of things that, that we look at and say, oh, well, there's a lot of, sad stories, oh, is me, and it's always going to happen. Like the whole idea of the, Grayscale. Someone might have read that today and said, oh, no, I can't believe that they're going to, what's happening with the trust and what's going on. Well, it comes down to sheer, economics about running it, if they're able to run it. But then I show something like this. There we go. So check this out. So GateHub continues supporting XRP despite Ripple's legal issues. They're the latest crypto firm to announce the continuation of XRP support despite Ripple's legal issues with the SEC. As Ripple, and it says, please be advised that GateHub Limited will continue listing XRP until the SEC's complaint against Ripple is adjudicated and a final decision is entered that XRP is properly classified as a security, or if we receive a cease and desist notice from the SEC. And I like this because, when people are standing up, when crowd's going one way, you got some cooler heads always prevail. You've always heard this. The cooler heads prevail. Is sitting back. Let's look at it. Let's take the attorneys looking at it. Let's lawyer up. Guess what? Right now, is XRP a security? No, it's not. Should we, and what they're saying is the same thing stance as Uphold. Uphold said, yeah, we'll stop. There are two reasons where, first of all, until it's deemed a security, why wouldn't we continue on? There's nothing wrong with what we're doing. The second part of it was, hey, if it doesn't turn out where anyone's trading it or buying it or selling, then we can't continue to operate. And they're saying something very similar here about the security. So what do you think about when, this GateHub decision, Jeff?
I think it's spot on. Here you have a court case that's just being filed. No response yet from one of the parties. They haven't even gone into any type of conference, to even have a discussion over it. And yet Coinbase and other exchanges are jumping the gun and making a decision without anything. I mean, why?
Nothing.
What's the rush? What's the purpose? There's no purpose. And that's what Uphold said. That's what GitHub is saying. Have the case with an outcome and then make a determination, because you can always do what you're planning on doing tomorrow. I mean, just because Coinbase said, hey, it's going to happen on the 19th, when they made the statement, it was, a whole month, they were like 3 weeks in advance, so what was the difference a week ago than on the 19th? What is it preparing people to do other than to allow them to facilitate more transactions? And then the only thing they did was, instead of being able to do a market buy, they did a limit buy. What was the purpose of that? It made no sense.
It seems silly, Jeff.
And their purpose, and from Coinbase's perspective, those guys are going through the IPO process. So they're getting ready to IPO probably in February, I'd assume. Don't know. But I think they're getting pretty close. So if they're going to IPO, we get it. They have to stick to, mind their P's and Q's, and so they have to do everything a certain way. That made no sense. I mean, if you're going to end it. Just tell everyone, by the way, January 1, no more purchases. Right. You can still you can custody it here. You can't buy or sell it.
Why the trickery?
Are they trying, if they're trying to make sure people don't bail from their exchange, which probably would have happened. People would have said, oh, well, Uphold is still allowing it. I'm going to go to Uphold and sell it over there. And I'll just move it. And so was Coinbase trying to get, the last bits of profit off of transactions on XRP? It makes no sense. I mean, it really makes no sense.
It's kind of weird. And, I think too is like, we have to be smarter too. We've got to look with what we know, the research we've already done and conducted. When you see like this is massively deceptive, right? Grayscale to dissolve XRP trust due to SEC's Ripple lawsuit. Institutional investors interested in buying XRP will have to look elsewhere. It's largely deceptive in the fact that it's kind of like misplaced. The fact that the reason, we just talked about the reason why they're stopping. They're worried about being able to do transactional stuff. Has nothing to do, I mean, it does, it's kind of connected to the SEC, but they're acting though is because of the SEC lawsuit, they're going to be prevented and so they're liquidating. So, a lot of times you see these clickbait headlines, and although, yeah, there's a truth to it because the SEC suit was filed, but let's be clear, XRP has never been deemed a security till this day. And everyone's running around screaming, the sky's falling, It's
a funny comment, right? How is Coinbase going to IPO, but they can't fix their servers?
The best thing, and somebody else put a good tweet out there. They said, how is it? They said the best thing about using Coinbase is the fact that when you want to sell, you can't even sell. So you end up hodling, and you can't hurt yourself because the price will eventually go up again, Joni says, hey, do you think Flare is a backup plan? Take note, they gave it to XRP hodlers. Anyone else think Flare and Ripple have more in mind for the Spark token? It's a really good question. I mean, I'll take a quick shot at this. So I think, quite honestly, I think Flare is a monster in the making. I think Flare is going to own the part of the DeFi space when it comes to smart contract, and also, how it will work with oracles for off-chain stuff, and the fact that they're bringing in other pals, friends, XRP, they're bringing in Litecoin. Who else are they going to invite to the party? And what they're really doing, Ether, Ethereum, they're bringing all this stuff in, but they're building the better mousetrap. It's a difference of Ethereum had a good idea, and then someone takes it and refines it and puts it to something else. Now, how that might affect the whole idea with the Spark token, the Spark token's it's a little bit, without getting into all the nuts and bolts of how it works, the idea is that you can, by participating with your Spark token, you can also potentially earn in, right now we know XRP, but other cryptocurrencies. Jeff, what are your thoughts about, this whole idea of Flare?
Well, I love the idea of Flare. I think, their base concept, creating the interoperability for the smart contracts, I think is huge. Taking on what's going on with Ethereum, and trying to really, create a better mousetrap. And their better mousetrap is, partially in the smart contract, maybe a little bit better than what Ethereum can do. Maybe not. Time will tell when it starts really rolling out. But I think that's the objective. The idea of the interoperability is the game changer. Because it allows them to be interoperable with Ethereum, interoperable with others. Yes. And now they're talking about even with Litecoin, who knows what else they have in mind, down the road, but they look for a project, so they take the XRP ledger, they take XRP, take Litecoin and Ethereum, and they can really do so much more with the ERC20 tokens as well. So who knows where they'll end up going. But I think that the key with them is the interoperability.
Well, not only that too, but I also think they're gonna, DeFi's had a little bit of attention. You want to look at maybe 2020 as being the year of DeFi. It's kind of when it really started breaking out. We started seeing, a lot of different projects emerge. And one of the things that I think they're doing is bringing some serious legitimacy to it, and especially when they're rolling in this interoperability with other digital assets. I think that's a huge thing. But I also think the way they're approaching the smart contract, the way they'll work with oracles, which is, when you have stuff off chain, if you're waiting for trigger things to happen, I think this is going to be big. And I also love the CEO comes out and says, when all that thing hit with the SEC, he goes, hey, we're here to stay. We're not going anywhere. And that's it. Take a bold move. It's like, so what? Ask Elon Musk how he feels when Tesla, was attacked by the SEC. Ask him how he felt, and Jeff's brought up also too, in the early 2000s, you had Microsoft. They were like, let's take down Microsoft. Look, bottom line is that in order sometimes to build the regulation, any of this stuff, this antitrust, this securities, I'm still convinced they're going to slap them and say, you guys sold an unregistered security, pay this fine. It looks like over time it became decentralized and it functions as a digital asset, as a token, that has a use case, very similar to what the UK said. I still think they have one of the best regs, and also I have to go with Japan because I think Japan, some of the smartest humans on the planet. I mean, you want to take some direction, go to Japan and look at what they're doing, because their whole economy, is always so far advanced. Everything's on their phone right now. They've got different payment cards and everything else, and we're still running around with plastic cards in our wallet, Jeff, and putting the chip in. Meanwhile, they're like,
oh, mine's metal, but no. Hey, just real quick.
Come on, man, berserker.
Hey, I want to give a shout out to Next Gen over here. Hey, great content. Love the stream. Do you think the SEC will push to control the XRP in the escrow?
You want to take first shot at that, Jeff?
Man, that's I've thought about that. I've really thought about, can the SEC push to, and really that could be an objective of theirs. Maybe that's a settlement, but can they do it just by going after Ripple? Because at the end of the day, I believe, one of the things that David Schwartz, he came out and said was that the validators have ultimate control over it. Even Correct. The escrow had to be voted on. They placed it in there. The whole thing got baked in based on the way the validators voted on it. So I think in order to undo it, they would have to vote on that. So here's the caveat, is that the validators could vote on burning all of it. However, if they don't burn it, and they don't vote, and it stays as it is, when a billion are released, every single month, and it's that amount, it's that release that the SEC can rule on.
Jeff,
Your
I think
thoughts?
you nailed it. The thing is, well, you could say, well, Ripple holds XRP, or they have it in an escrow, whatever. Bottom line is, it's not really theirs to hold necessarily, right? If the validators go and vote, suppose, a week before this comes out, and maybe they don't burn it, but maybe the validator, some amendment is put up to do something else. Now they could burn it, right? But the whole idea of decentralization is the fact that you want to you don't want some entity controlling it. So we've got a combination of a decentralized asset that's currently controlled. Now it is in lockup, right? It's not like, one of the things the SEC complained a lot about in that complaint, it was pervasive, is like, that Ripple gave it away to this company and that company, but they didn't have any lockup periods. Well, the best lockup period we can look at is how it's in escrow, and they can only release so much. They can't, Ripple can't say tomorrow, like, oh, well, the law, we feel like this is going badly, we want to release all of it. They can't. It's like they already have a something set. So I think you nailed that, Jeff. Got to say you hit it pretty hard. Yeah, the FSA, top, without a doubt.
Yeah. So Japan's FSA, the top security regulator of the country, who had kept silent so far about the XRP situation, has confirmed that they view XRP as a cryptocurrency and not as a security. And that was in Japan, and I think that's a key component.
Yeah, and Warren Lawrence says, people don't understand the outcome of the complaint against Ripple will have implications across all cryptos. If they can't
Right.
comprehend it's so simple, maybe they shouldn't invest in anything, and that's true. It's like everyone's like, oh, Ripple's being attacked. Oh, ha ha ha, you banker coin nut jobs. Well, hey, I got bad news for everybody. It's way beyond that.
Yep.
So it could go almost any single way.
Yep.
And Jeff, I've talked about this before, but the push for decentralization has got to go beyond, some of the things we know. I mean, we started with the whole idea of value, money, the internet of value, you have money. It's got to go, I think, really, quite honestly, beyond what we know it to be. It's got to move into other arenas because otherwise, it's always going to be what there's a lot at risk. I mean, I don't know how you feel about that, but that's just my take. I think like when we look at big tech, big tech, I mean, this is what a lot of was written, a lot of books written about, artificial intelligence, artificial intelligence taking over. Well,
Yep.
only if we give it the power to, but what if it's decentralized? Then what? Then how do we handle it?
Exactly. Exactly. Hey, so so there's been a lot, of questions and comments on Tether. And there's some concern that Tether, depending on outcome, whatever it's doing, could be manipulating the Bitcoin market as there was concern that it did before. And there were a couple, well, there's a, case right now. And here you have, so the Bitfinex CTO came out and said Tether is registered and regulated under Fincen. USDT is not next target of the US SEC. And I think, that from there, a lot of things kind of spawned off of it when I was getting into. I said, okay, so this is what their, response is. And it's all over, the fact that the SEC is suing Ripple. And one of the things that we've pointed to is really the intimidation and the fear factor, or I should say the nervous factor in the space at large, that this could just be the beginning. And so I think here, seeing that you have the Bitfinex CTO, and this was already almost 2 weeks ago that he came out and made these statements. But that's legit, is that here and now there's concern that, Tether is going to be going through the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're going to see a lot more of this, but you got to get it out there. You're going to have to kind of push forward, and we're going to, look, anytime you have early days, trailblazing stuff, everyone's going to look at the new thing and compare it to the old thing. They're going to go back to 1932, 1933, laws in the books. They're going to go back to the 46 Howey test. And it's just kind of how we do it. We always have this legacy stuff that kind of holds us back from moving forward. And I think that it's uncomfortable as it may be, you're going to have to go through it. But let's suppose like, a year down the line or whatever, 6 months down the line, we get a ruling and everyone's happy again. And all of a sudden, it could be the start of a run because it'll be on sale and everyone knows There's a solid use case. What I don't like about the whole thing, though, is how it's impeded these companies to be able to conduct themselves, to perform. I know people can dump money, something into a stable coin. It's not going anywhere, supposedly, right?
Yeah.
But to take a company out, to take partners out, to impede someone's business for a length of time is unconscionable. You should never be able to do that. You're talking about a $10 billion organization. You're talking about hundreds of millions, if not millions of people around the world that invested in this, that have a vested interest in XRP digital asset. And it's like, well, let's put a complaint while I'm leaving. Let's just throw one out there. This is the part that's troubling, where it continues to impede the business model. But you know what? They're still going to sign contracts. They're still going to do stuff, but people are going to be, partners are going to be a little more tepid about it.
Yeah. So, man, so obviously back in 2019, the New York Attorney General was pushing for a case against Bitfinex. And, then I'm looking at this and it's kind of crazy because I didn't realize the power that the New York, Attorney General, has, and the investigation and what they're pushing for against cryptocurrency. And so there was an article that came out in July on Lexology. It says here, New York Appellate Court confirms Attorney General's broad investigative powers into the cryptocurrency industry. And what's interesting about it is that they get these powers through something called the Martin Act. And, you get all these different things like, the Martin Act, you've got the Howey test, and, what in the world is all this stuff? The Martin Act was actually passed in 1921. So you're talking about another, it's amazing when you get into some of these laws, how long they've been around. But it's a New York anti-fraud law, which here it says was widely considered to be the most severe blue sky law in the country. Then I'm like, what in the world is a blue sky law? Right. So a blue sky law is a state law in the United States that regulates the offering and sale of securities ostensibly to protect the public from fraud. So then we're saying, okay, so now they have this Martin Act and they're trying to protect the public from fraud. Back in 1921, I get it. You couldn't investigate. You couldn't do your own Google searches back in 1921. But here it gave the Attorney General of New York, of all attorney generals, expansive law enforcement powers to conduct investigation of security frauds and bring civil or criminal actions against alleged violators of the act. And it has been used a couple times, but man, I'm shocked, as you start digging in and you start seeing all these things that pop up, man, it's kind of crazy. And to going even further, one of the things that, you had talked about, you're hinting at, is the Tether holdings, right? So here it says, according to the First Department's decision, up until about March 4th of 2019, Tether holdings had represented that every Tether is backed by $1, and any holder of Tether may redeem it for $1 at any time. So that was up to about 2 years ago. After March 2019, which is what you were just talking about, Tether Holdings changed its representation on its website to state that while every Tether is still valued at $1, Tether is actually backed by Tether Holding reserves, which include unspecified currency, cash equivalents, and other assets receivables from loans made by Tether Holdings to third parties.
Nothing to see there, Jeff. Nothing at all. It's fun.
Where's my one for one?
It's a switcheroo, right? I mean, now that's why I keep saying to everybody, this is very different than what we're talking. I mean, it's a different case, but I mean, you can't establish it as one thing and everyone goes into it thinking, oh, it's one for one, and now it's like, oops, well, it could be this thing and it could be that thing, and then they have the Tether, well, they had Tether Gold and everything. What does, if you want to go back in time and discuss something, if you go back to John Dalberg Acton, he was the first baron. He lived to be 18. He died in 1869, but he was between 1837 and 1869. He was known as Sir John, right? Not Sir John that shows up in the chat. His best remark, which I still think carries a lot of weight today, was power tends to corrupt, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Great men are almost always bad men. It's like that's one of the few things you can dredge up from the old days that never changes. It's always going to be the same. People get a little bit of power and they always want to make their mark on the world. We're going to show them, and I'm going to put a notch in my belt and my resume and everything else. But if you're really doing stuff for the greater good, could there have been missteps by any organization? Yeah, clearly you can see that Tether made a misstep. But when you talk about backed, I mean, you remember, Jeff, there was somebody had this brilliant idea. They were going to come out with a new cryptocurrency, and the whole thing was going to be backed by gold, until they found out that they actually needed the gold reserves to actually be able to release it. It's like, it's a great concept, but if it's going to be backed by gold, where's the gold reserves? It's not pairing it one to one. It's not pairing it, on parity with the price of, an ounce of gold. It's saying they wanted to say, oh, it's a special crypto. It's a digital equivalent of that. But you got to show up to the party with the gold. And guess what? This is the same thing, misstep that Tether made. Now, if they'd come out and said, look, it will always be equal to $1. Okay, that's not how they positioned it. So there's going to be something. Now, they did change it, but who knows how it might go. They might say, well, the problem is if you call somebody on that, and I remember there was a big dust up maybe about 15 months ago on this. I don't remember exactly what it was. Yeah. Anyway, I know it's coming up on time. I want to read one thing real quick. I was trying to get to it before, but Jack put this out from Twitter. He said, the reason I have so much passion for Bitcoin is largely because the model demonstrates a foundational internet technology that's not controlled or influenced by any single individual or entity. This is what the internet wants to be over time. There will be more of it. And I said, hey, man, what if Twitter was decentralized? Bye-bye censorship. Great suggestion, Jack. And I want to remind everybody, if it's your first time here, please like, subscribe, click that notification bell, check out our other channel. You know, we did release our podcast, which is fantastic. It's pod.co on the chain, which I will put it in the chat right there. And Jeff, why don't you tell a little bit about our upcoming virtual meetup?
Upcoming virtual meetup on that podcast. You can go to any of the podcast platforms, right? You can go to Google, you can go to Apple, you can go to Spotify. Check it out. We're working on the registration process now. It's going to be maxed out, capped at 500. It might be less than that when we're going through it. But right now we're anticipating a meetup of 500 people, if that's possible. January 31st at 10 a.m., which is a Sunday, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, virtual blockchain meetup sponsored by On the Chain. It's going to be exciting. We're bringing in a couple guest speakers. So we're going to have Crypto Eddie is going to be there. You guys know her from the community. We have some representatives from BitChute. Not sure if Chris Wang is going to be there or not. And we have a few other people that are going to be there as well. But really the goal here isn't so much for everyone to sit around and listen to speakers. The exciting part is for the community to have a virtual meetup, and we have a great software platform that we're going to be using for that. And this is going to be the first of many. So stay tuned when we start rolling out for that. And just a quick shout out to everybody here, everyone that supports the channel, everyone that's thrown in a super chat, everybody that's showing up with us every evening to be here with us on the live stream. You guys are awesome, because sometimes it could be 3 hours behind us. It could be 12 hours ahead of us. And, we have some people that are on here listening at 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. So you guys are absolutely outstanding.
Much love to all you guys for doing that. And guess what, guys? We will be back again tomorrow night with another outstanding show for you. And that's all I have, Jeff. You got anything?
I think that's it. Let's get out of here.
See you on the next one. Chip and Jeff out.
Are you down with OTC? Please like, subscribe, and click the bell to be notified when the next video drops.